Hello everybody, it's me again. I hope the tension has risen due to the delay, and I've put on the same clothes as for the opening speech that you recognize me, though I've probably aged by 10 years over the last few days. If you think you had a hard time getting up at inconvenient times during night, being grilled by arbitrators with difficult questions, watching your teammates not giving the answer you would have given, that is nothing in comparison to what has happened behind the scenes. When on the day of the opening, suddenly 5 teams pull out. Over 30 arbitrators scheduled for the first 2 hearings tell you overnight that they cannot make it, or only 70% of the score sheets are sent in on the first day. However, looking back now, on the evening of day 4, despite all these challenges, we as the organizers think it was definitely worth the effort. Yes, Patricia, Birgit, Chris and myself would have preferred to see in person, to have a chat with you, your coaches or the arbitrators coming back year after year. However, I managed to see at least some of you in the general networking area or in the arbitrators networking area. And I hope that I will meet many more of you following this event in the general networking area of the virtual Dachgeschoss. You can not only meet me, but also Damien Hickman from IDRC, who with his team was responsible for making everything work in a miraculous smooth way. And you may also be able to meet some members of the scoring team. If you do not know how they look like, they are the most tired person in your circle. They did 3 night shifts to get everything done in time, or nearly in time, so that we can present you the results of those teams which make it to the round of 64. There were never as many diverging results as this year. The scoring team wrote to all arbitrators in the hearing to ensure that there had been not a mix-up of wrong criteria were used for the evaluations. All of the replies they got showed that the difference were not based on the application of wrong criteria or not other non-acceptable considerations such as not sitting together. They were all based on valid reasons relating to personal preferences and backgrounds. We realized through that process that apparently in remote hearings, the views about what is called a convincing argument, a presentation and whatnot, differs even more than in in-person hearings. And we have actually experienced that with the most frequent complaint we have received. We received 2 complaints on arbitrators commenting on cooperation between students sitting together. If I had been coaching a team, I would have advised the team to sit separate, that everyone has his own screen to fill. I know, however, that some of my colleagues have it completely differently. There was, however, a common thread in the overall feedback we have received from the arbitrators. They have never seen as many well-prepared and impressive teams as this year. However, out of these impressive teams which have participated, only 64 can advance. And while each team which advances has performed excellently, there are probably at least another 40 teams which would have deserved to make it to the round of 64 and just have not made it because an arbitrator did not ask the right question or just preferred a different style or answer to his or her question. For us organizers and everyone who works in education, you're all winners. It may actually well be that some of the teams which are placed at the bottom of the ranking have made the biggest progress in knowledge. They may have started from nothing and are now able to plead such cases in a way which many of us sitting as arbitrators would like to see in our real arbitrations. Thus, if the name of your university is not read out by me, there may be a number of reasons. The case may have been badly drafted. The arbitrators may not have understood your clever arguments, or there may have been teams who were just incredibly good and just a little better than your team. Whatever the final reason is, keep one thing in mind. You tried at least, and you gain knowledge and experience. that may be difficult for you to appreciate today if you think you should have made it, but your name is not on the list. We hope, however, that you will appreciate that looking back in the years to come. Which led me to make some final administrative announcements. After this announcement, we will post the results on our webpage. The teams will receive a link for tomorrow morning in their team account. The same applies to the arbitrators. We would like all arbitrators to check whether they have a conflict with hearings they are assigned, and tell us also whether there are other hearings where they would have a conflict. Furthermore, some of the arbitrators scheduled may be associated with teams they would like to hear tomorrow morning. They should also inform Chris and Birgit as soon as possible that they are not available. At the same time, we need experienced arbitrators who are now available to come to SLEC tomorrow morning at 7:30 Vienna time to replace those who have to pull out. If you are available, you can also send Birgit or Chris an email. Last but not least, we hope to see many of you after this event in the general networking area on the platform. With that, let me start to read out the teams who made it to the round of 64. University of Göttingen versus Bilkent University. Australian Catholic University versus Universidad de Lisboa. Bucerius Law School versus University of Stockholm. Deakin University versus University of Ottawa. Brooklyn Law School versus London School of Economics. Ruhr University of Bochum versus Universidad Francisco Marroquín. University College London versus Kiev National Taras Shevchenko University. University College Dublin versus University of Sydney. National Law University Delhi versus Monash University. National University of Singapore versus University of Vienna. National Research University Higher School of Economics Moscow versus Erasmus University. Already know, I can tell you that there are a number of arbitrators which have to be replaced because a number of the coaches of these teams are listed as arbitrators. We go on. Saarland University versus Istanbul University. University of Münster versus Universidad de Chile. University of Pretoria versus Luigi Bocconi University. University of Freiburg versus Harvard University. University of Queensland versus University of Heidelberg. Singapore Management University versus University of Auckland. Kotafi in Moscow State Law University versus University of Pittsburgh. Chinese University of Hong Kong versus University of Mainz. Jagiellonian University versus Fordham University. Strathmore University versus Stetson University. National Law School of India versus Nova University of Lisboa School of Law. Mackenzie Presbyterian University versus University of Leipzig. Federal University of Bahia versus Pontifical Catholic University of Sao Paulo. MGIMO University versus OP Jindal Global University. Eberhard Karls University Tübingen versus Wirtschaftsuniversität Vienna. National Law University Odisha versus National Law University Jodhpur. Columbia University versus Pace University. They don't have to travel far. University of Buenos Aires versus Aarhus University. City University of Hong Kong versus Galatasaray University. BPP Law School versus Pontifical Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro. And now the final one, University of Bern versus Sonderword Society of Gray's Inn. Congratulations to all the teams who made it to the round of 64. Good luck in the rest of the competition, and I wish all the teams who have participated, who have not made it to the round of 64, all the best, and hope to see many of you at the networking area on our virtual Dachgeschoss. Goodbye, good morning, good night, wherever you are.